Hello, good afternoon. My name is Samika Thompson. I'm from the Science and Technology Department, where I'm pursuing my bachelor's degree in computer science. This presentation will be on the issue that I have identified at School E. However, before I state the issue, I will give the order in which this presentation is organized. First, we have the purpose and the questions. Then we have the methodology, followed by results and intervention. And then finally, we'll have the reflection. The purpose and question. This is a brief explanation of the purpose of the needs assessment and the questions that guides this process. So these are the guiding questions that I have asked either the teacher or the students as to what is fueling the issue that we're having. Next, the methodology, which is to provide a brief description of the data collection process. And this is speaking about the instrument that I'll be utilizing to collect data or information. So this is also speaking about a questionnaire or the interview or either a checklist. Later, we're also speaking about the results, and this is the results that I have collected from the instrument that will be used, whether it's the questionnaire or the interview. So the results clearly present your findings, making use of the relevant data analysis. Followed by the intervention, which is to briefly describe how you would intervene to improve the situation given the results you have presented. And then the reflection is me speaking about my experience in preparing this presentation. The purpose of this needs assessment. The purpose of this needs assessment is to investigate the problem that has been identified at School E. The researcher conducted an interview and observation to gather information. The needs assessment has been narrowed down on the most pressing issue, which is the disruptive behavior of the grade 9 students in my information technology class. This needs assessment will search the factors that has contributed to the students' behavior and methods that can be used to intervene and make efforts to quell the students while channeling their excess energy into academics and extracurricular activities. Now, the guiding questions that I use to help me go along with this process. The first question is, what causes the student to be uninterested in the lesson? What caused them to be on their phone texting their classmates? What caused them to be talking while I'm teaching, while the learning process is ongoing? Right? Later, I also have, is there or what is the outside factor that contributes to the students' disdain for information technology? What is causing the students to not participate in class and is so easily distracted while they're in class? And finally, there's the last question. And the final question I have is, what behavior do the students exhibit while they're in other subject area classes? So say for example, do the students exhibit different behavioral attributes while they're in English class? Do they exhibit different characteristics while they're in English class in comparison to when they're in my class? Okay, so now that I have the guiding questions, the instruments that I use to collect the information or rather the data is questionnaires, interviews, and a checklist. Now, why did I choose a questionnaire? Questionnaire is a research instrument consisting of a series of questions for the purpose of gathering information from respondents. And this is said by McLean 2014. The reason I chose a questionnaire is that they are a more cost efficient and time efficient way of measuring the behavior, attitude, preferences, opinions, and intentions of a relatively large number of subjects than other methods. Then I use a checklist as well. A checklist is basically a guided method, right? Equipping yourself with a checklist enhances the experience, giving intentional guidelines with regard to observation. And I use an observational checklist. So I wrote down the, say for example, what I would like to observe. So I used the observational checklist in another teacher's class. So I wrote down the guiding questions that I would like to ask, or what I would like to observe. I would like to observe their behavior. I would like to observe the teacher's teaching technique, what she did differently from what I did in my class. That is what I use the observational checklist for. Now, the interview. A semi-structural interview or an effective method for data collection when the researcher wants to collect qualitative open-ended data, 2 to explore participants' thoughts, feelings and beliefs about a particular topic, and 3 to delve deeply into personal and sometimes sensitive issue. And what you realize with an interview, you don't really ask closed-ended questions. You give the respondent time to think, to open up, to tell you things that you did not even ask, or things that you wouldn't even think to ask, but they're open and they'll simply outpour their heart. So now I'll delve into how the students responded to the questionnaire. Now, what I've realized is that most of the students are from the age range of 14 to 15, sorry. And when I asked, have you ever disrupted a teacher's class, 70% of the students said yes, and 30% said no. If they did disrupt a teacher's class, why? 20% said, Miss, I don't know. They didn't have a reason as to why they disrupted the teacher's class. 40% said my friend asked me a question and I was answering. 15% said I was bored. The class was boring. So it was not to their liking. This information technology is not something they want to participate in. It is very boring. And instead of speaking to the teacher and asking or inquiring about ways to make it more enticing, more to their liking, to gamify the class, make it more practical, they resort to simply disrupting the class. 25% said I was quieting down, so they thought that they were helping the teacher to quiet down the class, but rather it was basically adding fuel to the fire. It was more disruptive than quieting down the class. Do other students' disruptive behavior affect your learning? 80% of the students said yes, 13% said no. So what we have realized this year, when the students are disruptive and when classroom management is not under control, we have an issue and the learning process is unstable. And there will be a disconnection with the lesson they teach and the content that is to be learned. Have you ever reported the matter to someone of higher authority? 72% of the students said yes, 28% said 72% said no, and 28% said yes. And this is also a problem, because from this I realized that majority of the students do not have faith in higher authority to help resolve the issue, and this is why the issue is prolonging, and it is not being resolved. 72% of the students do not report the issues or report disruptive behavior. Now, when asked, the ones that said yes, if they did report the issue and it resolved, I got a 50-50 response. 50% of the students said yes, it was resolved, and 50% said no, it remained the same and they are still having the issue till this very day. What do you think should be put in place by this institution to stop students from disrupting the class? Say, for example, fighting or loud outbursts in the middle of the lesson. 30% says the teachers should implement a stricter rule for the class. And what I think, they are saying that the teachers are too soft, because I've experienced that where the students said, "Miss, you're too soft, you should be stricter," because they're giving you issues, they're giving you a problem, because they realize that you're soft and they can get away with it. Now 50% say contact parents and report their behavior. I have witnessed this. I've spoken to the mother, the parent, and I saw a slight bit of change, but it wasn't anything major. And I think this can also work as well. I think the students have a point. Their response were correct and were efficient as well. And 20% says contact the dean and report the issue that you're having, report the students' behavior. Now, for the teachers, I interviewed approximately 4 teachers, and some of their response were similar. The teachers that I interviewed, they taught social studies, English, and also the same subject as me, information technology. Okay, so for the social studies teacher, he's been teaching for 2 years. The information technology teacher approximately 8 years, and the English teacher has been teaching for about 5 years. Now, when I asked if they're having the same issue as me with the disruptive students, all of the teachers responded the same: yes, 100%. They were having the same issue I was having. The students were disruptive. How did they resolve this issue? A teacher said they were the English teacher, she tried to befriend the students, and also she remains strict and let the students know their place and how to behave. There's a time and place for everything. Now the social study teacher said he gathered the students in his class parents phone number and contacted them and let them know that he has their phone information. And what you realize is that majority of the students fear is either the mother or the father, and they will behave if they know that you are speaking to their parents. The information technology, she does the reward and demerit system. And based on the teacher's response, I've taken that into consideration. What the students has responded in regards to putting in place measures for them to stop being disruptive, and what the teachers said that they put in place were both effective. And for the intervention, this is something that I did, or I applied, and based on the result, it was effective. So for my grade 9 information technology class, what I did was to be more strict with the students. I outlined the rules on the board and I asked them to help me in implementing these rules. Tell them what was the repercussion if they broke these rules. So say, for example, if they walk out of the class without my permission, they will stand in the class. If they came 10 to 20 minutes late, they will stand at the back of the class as well. And I implemented this, and I did see some change. I did see some change in their behavior, because what I realized is that yes, I was a bit too soft. And I also implemented the demerit and the merit system. So if they were well behaved, if they organized the class, swept out the class after lunch, because I always had that issue with the students leaving their garbage behind after lunch. I told them to sweep out the class, and I gave them the demerit and the merit system as well. Because what I realized is after COVID-19, after the 2 years that the students were online, they have been impacted mentally and psychosocially. They've had some bad issues that they have came back face to face school with. The same disruptive behavior that they had at their home, they come to school with it. They have been impacted mentally, socially, physically. They do not know how to behave, and it's taking a toll on them, and a toll on the teachers and on the students when they come back to school. Now, reflecting back on this needs assessment, I've learned a lot, and I've also realized that the students, they need the help just as much as the teachers need help as well, because from what I've witnessed, the students are struggling just as much as the teachers are struggling. I've seen persons have mental breakdown before going to their class, and I've also seen the students saying they're tired because they've getting a break online where they just go into online and they just search the answers. Now back to face is like they're disorientated and they're not familiar with this environment. This reflection has taught me a lot. This needs assessment have taught me a lot. First, I came with the narrative that I'll try to, go easy on the students to get to know them. But what I realized, you have to show them who is in authority, and that you're not here to play. You're here with a purpose, and that is to pass on information. Classroom management is one of the most important dimensions of teaching and learning process. Without proper classroom management, the learning process will be constantly interfered, and there will be disconnect with the students, the teachers, and the lesson. When there is efficient classroom management, it improves the learner's outcome, and this is what we're aiming for. Thank you.